Hey guys, it's Lucy Kate and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, as the title states, I'm going to be talking about the top 7 things I miss after moving away from Japan. Before we get started into this video, I do want to say a huge thank you to all my subscribers who have subscribed to my channel here recently. My Japan themed videos got quite a few views and a lot of you subscribed to me from there. So therefore I've decided that I definitely do want to incorporate more Japan themed content into this channel, so definitely stay tuned. And if you're a new viewer here, please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I aim to upload videos every week, vast variety of topics related to Japan, Hawaii, the UK, beauty, fashion, lifestyle. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. I'm part Japanese and I moved to Japan when I was 12 years old. I lived there for just over 10 years and since 3 years ago I moved to Hawaii. I've been in Japan for quite some time. I've experienced the good, the bad. I do have a brief video talking about my overall experience and my life in Japan. I'll link my Japan playlist down below, which basically has just a variety of videos about me talking about my experiences when I was in Japan. And another thing to state is these top 7 things that I'm going to mention in today's video are all of my personal opinion. You know, each of our opinions are different. This is just my personal experience, the 7 things that I miss from living in Japan. And some of them are mainly due to the fact that I live in Hawaii now. So I live in the USA right now and I live in the state of Hawaii. And of course, Hawaii is very different to the mainland. And so, you know, some of the things I mention are maybe not as relatable, but I just thought it would be a nice video to make. Maybe if you're a foreigner who's lived in Japan for a while, you know, maybe you can look out for these things and appreciate these things while you're in Japan, or you might relate to the things that I miss. Or if you're a Japanese person who's moved abroad, maybe you can also relate to this topic as well. So let's get kick-started with the number 1 thing I miss about Japan. The number 1 thing I miss is the food. When I'm talking about food, I don't specifically mean like washoku, like Japanese food itself, but just food overall in general. I'd say the quality of the food I really miss. So if I was to go to a cafe or a restaurant in Japan and order something, you know, as long as I like the actual ingredients, there's not really like a hit or miss situation. Whereas I do feel like since moving to Hawaii, you know, some of the restaurants I'd go to don't really tend to taste as good. I've had some bad eating experiences, even though it's food that I like for example, like pasta or something. In particular, foods I would miss. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there's so many foods I miss. Technically, you know, I can eat Japanese food itself here in Hawaii. So I'd say I just miss, I don't know, like really small things, like for example, like snacks. I really miss Nagoya, like local food. I miss cafes. I really love Japanese cafes. I love like traditional style Japanese cafes. For example, Komeda. Komeda Coffee is like a huge franchise all over Japan. It's based in the Tokai, Nagoya area where I lived in. And I really love those like classic, like Showa kind of style, retro style cafes in Japan. But I also love the modern cafes they have. You know, Japan has so many cool cafes. I myself love coffee, I love tea, and going to cafes is one of my hobbies. There was always constantly like a new cafe opening in Nagoya or in Aichi prefecture. There's always like new cafes opening around me, and just the presentation, the food, everything was good. And if you like taking pictures, there's lots of grammable places too. So yeah, cafes I miss. I also miss convenience stores. Definitely really miss convenience stores. 7-Eleven is an American company, so we do have 7-Eleven here, and there is actually lots of local menus in 7-Eleven Hawaii. So apparently compared to the mainland, like Hawaii 7-Eleven's quality is better, I've heard, but you can't really beat Japan's convenience stores, I'm sorry. But yeah, I love the convenience of convenience stores. I love the hot food. Like some of my favorites were like amman, like the azuki steamed buns, or the drinks, like the coffee was good quality for such a cheap price. Yeah, I really, like, it's something you take for granted when you live in Japan, but convenience stores is something that always used to excite me. So yeah, that's definitely something that I think the majority of people would miss if they leave Japan. And another thing related to food for me would be the vending machines. Just the fact that you can find vending machines literally everywhere, which is another sign of how safe Japan is, because you can't really place vending machines if you're not in a safe area, because people try to break the machine and steal and whatever. Not just the fact that there's so many vending machines, but the drinks they have in there, like they have so much variety. So yeah, I'd say food is definitely a number one thing that majority of people I'd say would miss if they were to leave or move away from Japan. So the second thing I miss the most about Japan is the safety. This of course depends on what country you come from or what country you live in. However, Japan is considered to be one of the safest countries in the world. The crime rate is very low, and I never really felt this before. When I was younger, I did live in the UK and I lived in the countryside. I lived in a very rural area, so I never really felt like I was in danger. For example, compared to living in London or Manchester, I never really sensed there was much crime around me. There was not many dangerous situations. So when I came to Japan, I guess I didn't really appreciate the whole safety. I didn't really appreciate the whole safety of Japan because I had nothing to compare it to. However, since moving to Hawaii, I really, really appreciate how safe Japan was. I mean, even in my videos, right, you hear how many sirens there are. There's literally a siren right this moment that I'm filming. The crime rate is so high compared to Japan. This of course will depend on the state. It will depend on whether you live in the city or the countryside. There's so many incidents of like people stealing things. We have gun incidents recently. There's just so much crime, and so whenever I'm walking outside, I have to be constantly alert. I mean, of course I was alert in Japan, but it's like I'm constantly like checking behind me. I'm constantly very cautious. I saw many dangerous situations since moving here, and especially recently, like the crime rate has really gone up. Now I really, really appreciate the safety of Japan. It's something I definitely miss. For example, if I was to feel a little hungry or like have a craving for some sweets, I could just walk to the convenience store when I lived in Japan, and yeah, it's spooky because it's nighttime, but I wouldn't feel really, really scared. Sorry if the camera angle changed a bit. I had to stop it once because I ran out of storage. So yeah, as I was saying, like now I don't go out at nighttime. Like literally after 9 p.m. I never leave the house. I don't walk around at nighttime. So now, especially because crime rates are getting higher and higher here, safety is something I definitely really appreciate about Japan. The third thing that I miss the most about Japan would definitely have to be the convenience. Just the convenience of living, basically. This falls under many different aspects. One would be convenience stores, which I mentioned earlier. Another would be 100 yen stores like Daiso, Seria. Not only is the cost low, but the quality of the products are really good. Other things would be public transportation. Public transportation in Japan, everything about it is so smooth. The system, how trains come on time, it's clean. Yeah, I'd say if you live in a city in Japan, you pretty much don't need a car. You can get anywhere using the trains or the buses, and it's safe. I'm not going to stereotype all public transportation in the US, but I'd say maybe depending on the state or the area, public transportation isn't really something you would feel comfortable using. That's why, I don't personally use public transportation. Everywhere I go is by car. But yeah, apart from that, convenience-wise, just the service, like overall, like customer service, I'd say is very good in Japan. Everything is just well systemized and organized. We're about halfway through, so next is the fourth thing that I miss about Japan. And the fourth thing is the living costs. This really depends on, of course, where you live. For me, I currently live in Hawaii, as I said, and I'd say it's in like the top 3 most expensive places to live in the US. That's why, it really depends. It really depends on where you're living right now. But for me, I really compare the living costs from when I lived in Japan to living in Hawaii now. It's crazy. The price difference is crazy. Not just to do with the current like rate from yen to US dollars, but more to do with the actual cost for things, like the cost of food. Like eating out is so expensive. It's crazy. Like in Japan, you could go to like cafes and do like lunch sets, like lunch menus for like 1,000 yen to 1,500 yen, and you get, you know, a lunch meal, a drink, and sometimes a dessert. Whereas here it's like $15 for one acai bowl, and then it's like plus drinks and plus tips. Tipping is something you don't have in Japan, so that itself, you know, adds a lot. But not just that, but the actual price of things on the menu is so different. Yeah, so it's really shocking, like to be living in Japan for so long and being used to the price of things and then moving here. Again, like when it comes to living costs, you know, Tokyo is said to be one of the most expensive cities to live in, but for me living in Nagoya, the living cost was cheap. Rent is another thing that is just crazy, especially living in Waikiki. So of course I'm living in like, you know, the touristy area, so everything is marked up even more. But the rent is crazy. Of course, that is because I'm living in here. Like if I was to move to a different state, you know, you can literally buy a huge house in a different state for the price of like a 1-bedroom condo for a 1-bedroom apartment. So yeah, prices are crazy. So that is definitely something I miss about Japan. Like the prices feel so low that I feel like if I was to go to Japan on vacation now, I would probably just splurge on like so many things just because it feels so cheap. So another thing, the next point that I miss about Japan, again, is a personalized thing that I miss because I live in Hawaii now, and that is the 4 seasons. We don't have 4 seasons here in Hawaii, and it's pretty much like 2 seasons. We have like the summer season and then the winter season, I guess, where there's more rain, it's more windy, the temperatures are cooler. So something I really truly miss is having, you know, spring, summer, autumn, winter. I've experienced that all my life. You know, I really like to embrace each season. Like for fashion wise, you know, I love winter clothing. Like I've never really been a summer person, like personality wise. You know, they say that people born in the summer are more outgoing, are more like extroverts. I was born in June, but I really feel like personality wise, I'm like an autumn, winter person. Yeah, I'm not a summery person at all. I love winter, I love the cold weather. So yeah, it's definitely something I miss, is being able to embrace each season. And another thing is, you know, Japan is such a beautiful country. You know, in the autumn you have the beautiful autumn leaves. In spring, of course, you have cherry blossom, you have the sakura. I really miss those things. You know, it's those small, like humbling things like nature, those kind of aspects that after moving, you really wish that you appreciated more. But that's not to say that Hawaii isn't a beautiful place, because it is. Like, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. It's just when you leave a place, you start to, you know, appreciate things. You start to, you know, realize the things that you miss. But I do want to make, you know, a separate video talking about the good things about living in Hawaii as well, so definitely stay tuned. The next one would have to be the cleanliness. Japanese bathrooms are pretty famous for being very clean, very modern. Public restrooms is definitely a thing that I miss. Yeah, public restrooms is definitely something I miss in Japan. Just overall, my experience is public restrooms tend to be cleaner compared to both the US and the UK. Yeah, it's something that you wouldn't think is major, but you know, it's a pretty big thing, you know, being able to go to a public restroom and not be worried if it's dirty or not. It's a stress factor. Like, I am a bit of a germaphobe, so yeah, dirty public places just freak me out. So that's why, to me, this is a pretty big factor of something that I miss, is the cleanliness overall in Japan. And you know, I myself have never used a washlet, you know, the Toto like washlets, but apparently that is something that Japanese people miss when they move to a different country. But I've always been scared to use it. Like, there's so many buttons, right, that I don't know what to press. So I've never used the washlets, but just cleanliness wise, I miss it. And like the heated toilet seats, and just, yeah, restrooms were comfortable to use in Japan. Whereas now I like really pick and choose on which restrooms I use. So like I only go to like department store restrooms or hotel restrooms because I know that they will be cleaner. We are on to the last thing that I miss about Japan. Well, there's so many things I miss about Japan, but these are just the top 7 things I thought of at the top of my head. So the last thing would be entertainment. There's so many things to do in Japan. There's so many places to explore. So there's 47 prefectures, and a unique thing about Japan is you have a really wide climate. So if you go to the top of Japan, or Hokkaido, you can experience a winter wonderland. But if you go to Okinawa, you can experience a kind of like tropical vibe. So Japan, although it's a very small country compared to the US, it's unique. You know, each prefecture, there's something to do in, and you know, I really regret not traveling more in Japan. Again, because Japan was so cheap, you know, they do like bus tours or like 1-day tours. They were so cheap. When I compare like the cost to now, like I really wish I spent more time traveling around Japan. You know, even though I was there for 10 plus years, a little over 10 years, I really feel that I didn't explore enough. Like there's so many more things I want to explore, so many prefectures I wanted to go to. I think I've only been to about 10 to 15 prefectures, so not even half of the prefectures I've conquered. And so yeah, I feel like there's so much stuff to do entertainment wise as well. There's like game centers, like arcades, Purikura is such a millennial thing, like, but I feel like Purikura is still popular, right? Purikura, like the photo booths, karaoke is another popular thing to do. Like entertainment wise, you can never get bored, especially if you're in a city. So yeah, it's just such an exciting country. And another unique thing is you can experience the modern Japan, like, you know, Tokyo, like Shibuya, Harajuku culture, but there's also the traditional side of Japan, like Kyoto, and like the shrines, the temples, the castles. So there's just so much stuff to do. That's not to say though that there's nothing to do in America, because another dream of mine in the future, like I did want to travel all 47 prefectures for Japan, but realistically I think that's going to be difficult now because I'm based here. But a dream of mine is to visit all 50 states of America, and there's so much stuff I want to do. But yeah, I would say like living in Hawaii for me now, I'm not an outdoor person. I'm scared of swimming in the ocean, and yeah, I'm not the outdoorsy person. Like I'm a very indoor person. That's why I'm here making YouTube videos at home. So yeah, I just feel like sometimes there isn't really much stuff for me to do here, like on a day off. Like I end up just spending it at home. So yeah, a thing I really miss about Japan is just the entertainment and the amount of things that there are to do, not just in groups but alone. So Japan is very friendly for introverts. I think I mentioned that in my video talking about living in Japan, but you can pretty much feel comfortable going anywhere like alone. For example, ramen, yakiniku, karaoke, they have like, yeah, lots of people do these activities on their own. So yeah, I think that is about all for my top 7 things that I miss about Japan. I think these were the top 7 things that I miss about Japan. Again, these were the things that I could think of off the top of my head. So there's probably, after filming this, I'm probably going to notice things afterwards, and like you guys may comment things down below and I'll be like, oh wait, there was that as well. There's good and bad in every place. Like from living in 3 different countries, I see positive things and negative things for each place. I really feel grateful for being able to live in 3 countries and maybe, you know, more states in the future. Probably not going to be living here in Hawaii forever. We might be moving to another state in the future. So I want to appreciate, you know, making memories here now while I can. So I am thinking of making an opposite video next time, talking about the negatives of living in Japan, and also talking about a video of my experience living in Hawaii, like the positive things and so on. Please, in the comments down below, let me know what are the things that you miss the most about Japan if you've moved out of there, or what are the things you will miss about Japan if you were to ever leave. A lot of you have been really tuning into, you know, my Japan related videos. I do plan on posting some more Japanese education topics. I do plan on posting more like studying Japanese tips sort of videos, so stay tuned for that. So if you have any video requests, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. They can be, you know, related to Japan or Hawaii themed videos. Really appreciate any requests because it gives me more ideas and inspo. So that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!